Hello, can you hear me? Microphone check 1212. Hello and welcome to Atomic Movie Reviews Film Society. I'm your host, Atomicon Rex. Here we discuss films that have a narrative background in aliens, ghosts, robots, and monsters. So without further ado, let's just jump into it. Okay, so we're going to review this TV show called From. I found it on Amazon. It's actually leaving in like 2 days, so by the time you listen to this review, it won't be on there. But I got to watch. It has 3 seasons. I got to watch season 1 and season 2. I thought it was a pretty good, pretty solid TV show. So I think it came out in 2022. I don't know the director's name. I don't know the lead actors. Like it's a TV show. I recognize one actor in it, but everybody else I really don't. What are some plot or narrative predictions? I think they're all dead. I think they died on a road, on like a road trip, and they're trapped in some sort of purgatory. Um, I think the kid who gets pinned at the beginning, like one of their children gets like pinned in the car, and it's like unconscious throughout the episode. I think he's like in limbo, like he's like fading in and out of consciousness or life. Okay, and so that's why he's kind of pinned and kind of stuck there and can't move, and everybody else is able to because they're like fully in the afterlife. Have you ever played that video game? There's a video game called Silent Hill. Okay, they also have a couple of movies, but I'm going to talk about the video game. So the video game came out in the 90s. I think it was for like the PlayStation, either 90s or early 2000s. And it's one of those games where like it's an RPG game, so and it took like 3 4 of us to like beat it. And I think we had to buy that, $20 magazine that you get at Hastings in order to beat it, right? Well, we actually beat it. And I don't know if we got the good ending or the bad ending, because depending on how you beat a game back then, the endings would change. If you did all the quests or, you went left instead of right, that you either get a good ending or a bad ending. Well, anyway, so the ending was that the characters were still dead. Like you basically start off from a car crash, and you walk from the car crash into the town, right? And then at the end of the game, you realize that you never left the car crash, that you're still dead, right? And like being a little kid playing this game, that was one of those. That was a moment. That was one of those sixth sense moments, just for video games, right? So it's pretty good. And so that's kind of why Silent Hill is kind of a big deal. That's why they made a movie out of it and stuff like that. It was kind of because of the twist ending. Well, anyways, that's my plot prediction on this TV show. I'm willing to bet that they're all dead and trapped in some sort of purgatory. Okay, so moving on. Genre. What is the genre? It's horror. It's a horror TV show. I mean, you might even maybe say it's science fiction. No, because there's no really. Yeah, there is science in it, so it's science fiction. Yeah, but it's definitely horror science fiction. Cinematography. It's live action, color, original work. I'm not sure if there was an original work. Like this is not a book. This is not based on a book or a video game that I know of, or a screenplay that I know of. So I'm just gonna say it's original work in itself. Set design, it's a mixture of both practical and CGI. It's all the whole TV show is filmed in one location in this one town. So it doesn't really, well, until we get to season 2, but it doesn't really divert from there. What else do we have? TV tropes or plot conventions. I would say like the main plot convention in this one is a pocket dimension. a ghost town. Like the town itself seems to have a mind of its own. Like, the trees, they have these teleportation trees, and I guess they move, and all the structures in the town seem to be from different time periods. Like something's going on with the town itself. I don't know if it's, you know, some sort of CIA spook government experiment where they're tapping the water with LSD and seeing what it does to the citizens and stuff. But it's either one or the other. Either they're trapped in purgatory or they're trapped on some U.S. government experiment like the Tuskegee Airmen or some bullshit. You know how they are. Um, so it's either one or the other. I'm willing to bet. Okay, characters. Okay, so you got hero, villains, damsels in distress, sidekicks, weapons, mode of transportation, and locality. All right, so the heroes. Um, you got a sheriff and his sidekick. They kind of run the town. He's able to take control of the town because at first those people were just running wild because at night, when the sun goes down at night, these vampires come out. And I don't know what the vampire does to people because it kind of puts them in like a hypnotic trance because these people just stand there and just let this vampire just rip them apart. Like I haven't seen anybody put up a real good fight at all towards them. Once the vampire starts talking to them, they just stand there and let it rip them apart. It's weird. So that's kind of what's going on in the city. That's kind of like the big. That's the big threat, right? So they show up. They're driving down the road. They show up into this town and they can't leave the town. They keep going straight and keep just winding back in the same spot. So the sun comes out. The sun goes down, and these vampires come out and just start killing people, right? And then so you have like random people from all over the United States just hiding in bushes and stuff. So this guy, he's a military guy. He ends up coming to town, taking over, forming a plan, and basically forming a resistance to the vampires, right? Because of his training, and he's the only one with the gun and all of that. So he's kind of the hero. So the damsels in distress, where would I put them? I would put the whole town in this category. I would say the whole town is um, kidnapped victims. Every single every single person in there. The sidekick, I would just say the the other cop. I mean that he is really the sidekick, but they're not the main character, or are they? Because I've been following the lady in the RV, but now that I think about it, I think the cop is the main character. I mean, he's on the the screen of the, I want to say the box, but it's not a box, the thumbnail on TV. So, well, he's on the thumbnail, so I guess he would be the main hero, and his partner would be the sidekick. Okay, so weapons. So they don't have really too much weapons. Like the cops and the sheriff have guns, and a couple other people in the other house have shotguns, but that doesn't hurt the vampires. The only thing they could really use against the vampires are these like talismans, like these magical rocks with these runes on them, and they put them in front of their doors, and the vampire is not able to enter the house with those rocks on them. Okay, either that, or as long as you don't invite them in. If you invite them in, it doesn't matter if there's a rock on it. If you invite them in, they're able to come in. So yeah, so I mean, once I realized that, I was just like, yeah. And then you look at the vampires, and they're always really creepy and just smiling all the time, right? And they have this. I was getting how do I say? You ever hear of that character called Indrid Cold? Right. Well, in the UFO culture and UFO lore, Indrid Cold is this guy that approached, I don't know, this old white man driving some pickup in some small town, right? And when he shows up in what could only be described as a teapot, a cast iron teapot that's blowing fire from like both angles. So like kind of like, I mean, if you can imagine a Batmobile, a hovering Batmobile type of craft. Well, he shows up, right, and approaches this guy's truck and starts asking him questions. And so he asks him strange questions, but he doesn't stop smiling. That's the one thing that um, I think his name was Wilson, Woodrow Wilson, said. Like, this guy just kept smiling, and he spoke to him in telepathy. Like, he didn't move his lips when he spoke. Right. And then so if you match that with, the cattle mutilation phenomenon going around, you can put two and two together and be like, oh, okay, maybe we're dealing with some sort of vampiric ghost, right? That's what the Men in Black are. That's what I've been saying. So I'm watching this TV show, and like they have these vampires that come out at night, and they just walk. Like, they don't run, they don't teleport. They're not like super fast. Like, how vampires are usually depicted. They had this steady Jason Voorhees walk to them, right? Like, they're not in a rush. So they come out at night and they walk up to people, and it's like they see these. What you see is a person smiling at you in old clothes. Okay, but that's kind of just a screen memory, right? They're really horrific looking monsters. Okay, but you don't see that until they start attacking you. Okay, when they walk up to you, they're just kind of like these black and white, pale looking, boring people, right? But they're just smiling. That's just what's odd about them. Like, there's just always this creepy smile on them. And so I'm watching this, and I'm just like, man, that's very much like Indrid Cold, right? So that's probably where they're pulling from. They're pulling from, the UFO community, that aspect of it, and they're vampires, right? Like, everybody's talking about fairies and all of this stuff, but they're clearly vampires because you got to invite them to come in. They have sharp teeth and claws. They only come out at night. You could repel them with a magical talisman. It could have been a cross. It's basically the same thing, or garlic. And so that's what we've been dealing with, right? So those are really the only weapons that you can use against them until we get to season 2. And then he finds out basically a different way to kill the vampire. In season 2, he comes across another ghost, right? They go into the forest, and they come across these teleportation trees. Basically, if you jump inside of this tree, it'll teleport you to another part of the town. And sometimes it's a bad place. Like, sometimes it'll teleport you into like a dungeon. Well, he gets teleported into the dungeon, right? He gets teleported into this dungeon where he comes across another ghost. Okay, and so he's talking to this guy who's like chained up in this dungeon, and this music box appears out of nowhere and starts playing. Okay, now he's talking to the guy who's chained up, and he's trying to free him. And the guy tells him basically like they're on their way. So the cop is thinking that he's talking about the vampires. Okay, and that the vampires are going to be coming around the corner anytime. Okay, and he doesn't have enough time to save them. But that's not what the guy's talking about. That guy is talking about a ghost that's in that dungeon, which is not a vampire. It's a completely different type of ghost. Okay, and then the music stops, and then boom, that guy attacks him and like cuts him and shares his blood with him or some weird shit, right? So he ends up bringing the ghost back to town, and now we have another problem. Now we have a ghost that kills people in dreams, right? And we have the vampires that come out at night. So, and they're thinking that they're one and the same, but they're actually two separate things. They're two completely separate, different types of supernatural entities. Well, anyways, somehow, some way, through twists and turns and narrative jumps and leaps, this guy basically takes the blood that he was infected with from the ghost in the forest in the dungeon, and basically feeds it to the vampire, which kills the vampire. So he uses the blood from another ghost to kill another ghost, right? And so that's how he's like the hero of the story, because he's the only one who's really coming up with ways in order to defeat these monsters. So they find out they kill the vampire, they cut him open and find out that he was human, but there's like his all of his intestines are just like dried up, and so they don't know how it's even moving because there's no liquid, there's no machinery, there's nothing going on. It's just an automaton, a human wax figure, basically. But it was alive, but it's not dead now. It's completely dried out. So they really don't know what's going on. Like the vampires are not alive. He's able to kill the other ghost, and he's able to find a way to kill these vampire ghosts. And so I don't know. I think I'm gonna leave it at that. Let's take a pause there, and we'll pick it up tomorrow. Okay. Where am I at? Let's just wrap this up. All right. Acting. Did the actors seem believable? Yeah, every one of them was pretty solid. I was convinced by every one of them. I think they all brought their A game. What was the cultural impact of the movie? Did it break any new ground? No, not that I could think of. It's a ghost story, basically. A haunted ghost story. That's where I'm going with it. Rating system. I saw it on streaming. Yeah, if you could find it on one of the streaming channels, see it, watch it. But I think it's also worth, paying for it, downloading it or whatever, however you want to do it. I think it's actually worth that. Um, so summary and conclusions. All right, so I'm just gonna give up some of the clues that I picked up watching the show that leads me to think that they're in some sort of purgatory, and then I'll wrap it up with that because it's an ongoing show and I haven't watched season 3. So some of these things still may be wrong. Okay, so clues. They don't. Clue number 1. They don't have. They don't know where the animals come from. I think that was brought up. Like they don't know where the animals come from. That they just like appear. The road leads to nowhere, and it's one road, so it's a perpetual circle. Puzzle of wood bricks. This acts as a contact modality. Like the kid like forms this tower of puzzles, and then the mom forms the tower of puzzles, and then the ghost appears. And I think that forms as a contact modality. It's clearly a haunted town, right? There's clearly some sort of aftermath, ghostly phenomenon going on here. The trees move. They also teleport people. Victor, the one guy, he knows how to use the trees to teleport them to different parts of the town. But when the cop was pushed into the tree, he got teleported into a dungeon. So there's something going on with with the trees, and I also think the lighthouse. I also think the lighthouse is a teleportation tree. Like I don't think she's really out of the town. I think the lighthouse is really just another like I said, teleportation tree. It's giving me Silent Hill video game vibes. Definitely doing that. From what I gathered from season 3, that also makes me think that she's trapped in the afterlife or some sort of nightmare. Is that she doesn't talk to the cops. You know, she avoids talking to the cops because she doesn't want to sound crazy. Like that fucking matters. Like you need all resources on this matter to find your children and your husband. Like, get the fuck out of here. The first thing I'm doing is going to the cops. And if they think I'm crazy and they send me home with some Tylenol and shit, then I'm going to go investigate myself. Okay, but I'm going to try to get as much resources on the situation as possible. Get the fuck out of here with that. All right, what's another one? Someone is always pinned. Like season 1, it was the boy, he was pinned. Season 2, it's the dad, he is pinned. And that's another thing. Like I think they're trapped in the car. I think they're still trapped in the car. And she has visions. Like she'll have like visions in the in the lighthouse, where he was still hanging upside down, and the flashlight was hanging. You know, and I think that the show makes it think like it's just a horrific thing that was imprinted on her mind when after the car accident, where she was completely out during the car accident. Like we thought she was like dead. You know, I don't know if you guys remember at the beginning of the show when they first had the car accident, everybody thought she was dead. Okay, and everyone else was still alive. So that's another clue. Victor probably is her firstborn child that died, and that he got trapped in this purgatory and ended up growing up here. That's what I think. The lighthouse is another faraway tree. I said that. Basically, the town is a Rubik's Cube of nightmare stories. That's my conclusion. Look forward to watching season 3, and Atomicon Rex does recommend this bad boy. Talk to you guys later. Bye bye.